So the Twitter files exposed me in terms of being incorrect. Now, so this, I'm sure you guys have heard about this already. Elon is, you know, doing his expose thing, exposing the company he owns, about the conduct in terms of censorship and things like that that's been happening in the past. And in particular, the first issue that there was focus on was the Hunter Biden stuff and the suppression of that story. And basically, he exposed that some of my conspiracy theories about that situation were actually incorrect. I have a view that I've said this many times. China is overtly, let's just say, controlling, to keep it simple, like the way they have power over private corporations. It's written into their laws in terms of the government having that level of control. Where in this country, you know, we have the illusion of freedom, where the companies, a government can't just, tell a company how to run their business and things like that. Obviously, to some degree, we have things like regulation, right? But generally speaking, there's a separation between private companies and government, unlike in China. But to me, that separation that we have in the United States is more, I mean, it's written into law, but in practice, I feel like we're much closer to China than we might want to accept. So with that being said, so that's being, how I see things, like, relevant to what we're discussing here. So I look at Twitter and I look at the Hunter Biden laptop stuff, and I know that was something that was negative press, bad news for Biden. Biden's running for president, and you've got this scandal as a distraction. It's something that they definitely wouldn't want to be highlighted. And knowing that government, our government, has a history of basically sort of leaning on private corporations and things like that to get them to do their bidding, um, unofficially, right? It's kind of like, you know, the private companies know what the government wants, right? The government doesn't have to actually say, go do this thing. And the government does have the ability to do certain things to these corporations, which they may not like. So it's kind of like, you get the hint, right? Sopranos type of situation. So I had assumed that the government got involved. Now, first of all, the government was as far as Hunter Biden, the government was Trump, right? Trump was in charge. So the whole idea that the government did it, yeah, that doesn't really fly. But I figured the government had done this, and also, I don't know why people are pinging me at work at this hour. But anyway, I don't know if you heard that in the background. Um, and I definitely figured the media was involved in, the partisan media. We got right wing media that's like working for the Republican Party, liberal media working for the Democratic Party, specifically liberal media, because you don't see a lot of that in the more left wing media, the quote unquote fake progressives, sure. But if you go into real leftist media, where you're getting like socialists and stuff like that, they are not they are not catering for the Democratic Party. Unlike on the right, it seems like across the board, that's all they do. They may say otherwise, but essentially, whatever Republicans are talking about, that's what they're talking about, right? That being said, the Twitter files exposed me to be wrong, because the Twitter files showed that the government did not um, suppress the story, right? Here, these guys had access to all the behind the scenes emails and conversations and Slack chats, and they had the whole thing, right? So I had this idea of this, collusion going on, trying to suppress the story because it hurts Biden. That was my opinion, right? Um, and then these guys go in there, and it's a big nothing burger, right? Who suppressed the story itself? Twitter did. And they didn't do that on behalf of the government or on behalf of the Biden campaign. Now, if you ask a typical right winger who watches partisan right wing media, this information will be shocking to them, because it's just like we live sort of post reality type situation where facts don't really matter. People can simply, if there's a car accident in New York City, um, I don't know if we find out that apples are poisonous, you know, they can just simply say that apples are the healthiest food ever, and there's no risk at all whatsoever. They can just completely defy the reality. So the way these stories have been presented in right-wing media, they're presented as like, oh, this is a big bombshell. Look what this and I knew they were doing this kind of stuff. But the reality is, again, the suppression of the story was not done by the request of any of the people like myself assumed were doing that. That's what the files showed, right? The decision came directly from Twitter itself. And then again, right when you're watching the dishonest right wing media would tell you, no, 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 they found that the Biden people told them to pull stuff down. But, and this is an important detail, again, right wing media will lie to you about that, but the truth of the matter is, what the Twitter files showed were the requests that came in for things to be pulled down, and they were pulled down, right? And it wasn't the laptop story, right? The things that they requested to be pulled down was dick pics. But here's an important detail. Was it Matt Taibbi or whatever, that clown? He's the one that's doing this expose. He shows that, they requested these links be pulled, and they were pulled. Doesn't tell you what the links are about. This guy's a journalist, right? People look into what the links were about, find out it's dick pics. Why would this supposed journalist doing this major expose see that links were requested to be pulled down and not tell you what the links are? Like, are we supposed to believe he's just that stupid? Or is this just typical propagandist behavior, right? Where you intentionally mislead your audience, make them think it's a big bombshell and they were trying to protect Biden, blah, blah, blah. Come to find out it's dick pics, revenge porn. It's against Twitter policy. Twitter should have pulled it down anyway, just based on their own policies, right? But the story itself, again, was suppressed by Twitter, not requested by the government or Biden campaign. And they reversed that decision. They reversed it. They suppressed it themselves. And then they said, no, we shouldn't. Like, they debated it, like, should we do it? Should we not do it? Right? So they had a struggle deciding what was the right thing to do. So this idea of conspiracy, which I had, right? This idea of, we got to protect Joe Biden, right? That's not what the Twitter files showed. The Twitter files showed they were trying to do what they thought to be the right thing. And they jumped on, like, let's suppress this thing. And then they second guess themselves and say, no, let's not suppress the thing, right? I mean, this is completely opposite of what was thought of by many people, what was thought by myself. And it's still a big difference between what's thought right now, because right-wing media filters it through their dishonest lens to make it sound like what is the most profitable story, right? What will get you views and clicks? Oh, look, they exposed the Biden campaign, whatever, right? That will get you clicks. Like, I knew it. That's going to get you clicks. That's going to get more money. So even though the opposite of that happened, you frame it as if that did happen, right? And you get the clicks, you get that money, and that's what it's all about. So I was wrong. I'll admit I was wrong. I still am a strong believer that the government does a lot of stuff behind the scenes in terms of, we have this appearance of freedom, but then behind the scenes, they're leaning on people to do certain things. I definitely still hold strong. Now, we need to do the same investigation with the media. I think the media definitely made a decision to suppress the story, but not as an evil conspiracy of like, we're going to help Biden win. It's partisan media. You pick a target audience that you want to make your money from, and you pander to them. If you're pandering to liberals, right, you don't want to be going and bashing Biden and bashing Biden's son, especially if that's what right-wingers are doing. You don't want to be seen as pushing right-wing talking points on your liberal show, right? So I think if we were to have the same access to liberal media, I think we'd find that they, in fact, suppress the story. But even them, they weren't doing it specifically to help Biden. It was more to help their bottom line. Again, it's all about the money. This is Debate Me Channel. Debate Me in the comment section below. Click on the like button, subscribe, smash that bell. Be well.